When I sit across from men and women in their late 70s or 80s, I often hear the same worry whispered in a softer voice than usual. Doctor, I feel like my memory isn't what it used to be. Sometimes it's after they misplaced their glasses for the third time that day, or when they forgot the name of someone they've known for years. And often, it's not just about memory, it's about fear. The fear of losing independence, of becoming a burden, of slowly fading away from the life they built with so much love and effort. That fear is real, and I want you to know you're not alone if you've ever felt it. But here's the good news. What we put into our bodies, especially after age 75, can either accelerate that decline or protect and even strengthen our brains. That's what this conversation is all about. And the surprising part? It's not just about what to eat, it's also about what to avoid. Now, before I get into the foods themselves, let me share the story of Harold, one of my longtime patients. Harold is 81, a retired high school teacher who loved to tell me about his fishing trips with his grandson. About 5 years ago, Harold came in looking defeated. His wife had noticed he was struggling with simple tasks, forgetting where he parked, misplacing bills, and even losing track of conversations midway. He was embarrassed, and you could see it in the way he lowered his shoulders when he spoke. Harold told me, "Doc, I just don't feel sharp anymore." That's where my journey with Harold began, and it ties directly into what I want to share with you today. Because what Harold and I discovered together made all the difference, not just for his brain, but for his confidence, his energy, and his relationship with his family. For those of you who are new here, my name is Dr. Nolan Easton. I've been working with men's health and aging for over 30 years, and I've had the privilege of guiding thousands of seniors through the ups and downs of staying healthy after retirement. In that time, I've learned that small, consistent choices matter more than almost anything else. And when it comes to brain health, there are a handful of foods that can nourish your memory, sharpen your focus, and keep you feeling like yourself well into your later years. That's what today's topic, Seniors, 3 foods your brain needs after 75, avoid these, is all about. Because while many people think forgetfulness is just an inevitable part of aging, I've seen firsthand that it doesn't have to be. You do have influence, and often it starts with what's on your plate. Now, before I get into the foods themselves, let me pause for a moment to ask something of you. If this message resonates with you, if you've ever felt that foggy moment when the right word just wouldn't come to you, leave me a simple yes in the comments. And if not, that's okay too, leave a no. I do read your answers, and they help me understand how best to serve this community. And while you're here, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap that little bell so you never miss when I share advice that could make a real difference in your daily life. Coming back to Harold, when we began working on his nutrition, the first thing I explained was that the brain is not separate from the body. It's fed by the same blood, the same nutrients, the same oxygen that keeps your heart and muscles alive. So if your body isn't getting what it needs, neither is your brain. Think about it like the fuel in a car. If you pour in the wrong fuel, or worse, clog the system with the wrong additives, you can't expect the engine to run smoothly. For Harold, we started with eliminating a few foods that were silently dragging him down. I'll talk about those in depth later in our discussion, but let me just say this. What you avoid is often as important as what you add. Harold was eating what he thought was a healthy breakfast every morning, cereal with skim milk and a slice of white toast. But that light breakfast was doing the opposite of what he wanted. It was spiking his blood sugar, giving him a quick burst of energy, then leaving him foggy and sluggish by late morning. Over time, that cycle was adding strain to his brain and memory. That's where we shifted him towards the first of the 3 brain-essential foods I'll share with you in this series. And the change was almost immediate. Within a few weeks, his energy was steadier. Within months, his wife noticed he was more engaged in conversations. And after a year, Harold told me something that brought tears to my eyes. "Doc, I feel like I got myself back." That's the heart of why this matters. Eating right for your brain isn't just about reducing your risk of dementia or Alzheimer's, though it absolutely plays a role in that. It's about protecting your ability to laugh with your grandchildren, to enjoy your hobbies, to wake up each day feeling present and alive. And here's something important to keep in mind. The foods that strengthen your brain aren't exotic or complicated. They're simple, natural, and often things you can easily find at your local grocery store. But too many seniors are either skipping them or replacing them with processed alternatives that slowly chip away at brain health. When Harold and I built his new routine, we didn't overwhelm him with 10 new rules or a strict diet. Instead, we focused on just 3 core foods. 3 simple things that nourish the brain at its deepest level. Each one works in a slightly different way, supporting memory, focus, and long-term clarity, and by weaving them into his meals, he created a lifestyle that supported not just his body, but his mind. Of course, making changes in your 70s or 80s isn't always easy. Habits have been built over decades, and food is often tied to comfort and tradition. That's why I always remind my patients, and now you, that this isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Even small adjustments can add up to real improvements over time. What I want you to take from Harold's story is this. No matter where you are right now, it is not too late. Your brain is still capable of change, still capable of strengthening, and still capable of bringing you joy and clarity. And the foods you choose starting today can play a powerful role in that. As we move forward in this conversation, I'll walk you through the foods that matter most and the ones you'll want to stay away from. But for now, I want you to sit with this thought. You do have the ability to influence your brain health. It's not something that's entirely out of your control, and it doesn't require complicated solutions. Just a few intentional choices, repeated day after day, can make all the difference. And if Harold were sitting with us right now, I know he'd smile and tell you exactly what he told me not long ago. Doc, I thought it was too late for me. I thought my mind was slipping away and there was nothing I could do. But now I know I was wrong. And if I can feel sharper at 81, so can anyone.
When I think about Harold's journey, what stands out most to me isn't just the foods we added, but the shift in his entire outlook once he started feeling that spark of clarity again. He went from quietly accepting what he thought was an inevitable decline to realizing that he still had agency, still had the ability to influence the way his brain worked. That shift is powerful, and it's something I want every one of you to feel too. So let's begin by talking about the first of the 3 foods your brain truly needs after 75. I'll tell you exactly what it is, why it matters, and how you can start using it in a way that feels natural in your daily life. The first food I recommended to Harold might surprise you because it's not something fancy or expensive. It's simply fatty fish. Now, I know some of you may already enjoy salmon, mackerel, sardines, or trout, but here's why they matter so much, especially after 75. These fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA, which is one of the building blocks of your brain. You see, your brain is almost 60% fat. That might sound strange, but it's true. And not just any fat. It's a very specific kind that helps your brain cells communicate with each other. DHA is one of the most important of those fats. Without it, the membranes of your brain cells become stiff, making it harder for signals to pass from one cell to another. Think of it like trying to have a conversation through a wall instead of across a table. The message gets slower, muddled, and eventually lost. That's exactly what was happening to Harold. His diet had been very low in healthy fats for years. Like many people of his generation, he grew up being told that fat was bad, that margarine was healthier than butter, and that low-fat everything was the way to go. But in reality, the brain thrives on the right kinds of fats. When we added fatty fish to his weekly meals, it was like turning on the lights in a dim room. Slowly, his brain started firing more efficiently. I remember his wife telling me that about 6 weeks into the change, Harold began doing the crossword puzzle again in the mornings. For months, he had avoided it, claiming it was too frustrating. But now, he was not only doing it, he was enjoying it again. That's what happens when the brain starts to get the fuel it was designed to use. And for those of you who may not like fish or don't eat it often, I'll tell you the same thing I tell my patients. Even 2 servings a week can make a measurable difference. If you truly can't tolerate fish, there are high-quality fish oil supplements that can help, but nothing beats the real food itself. Cooking a piece of salmon with a little olive oil and lemon is not only delicious, but also deeply nourishing for your brain. Now, while adding foods like fatty fish is important, I want to stress again that it's not just about what you put in, it's also about what you take out. When Harold and I looked at his breakfast, for example, we saw that his white toast and sugary cereal were working against him. Those foods were spiking his blood sugar, and when blood sugar goes up and down too sharply, the brain suffers. In fact, high blood sugar and diabetes are among the biggest risk factors for memory decline in seniors. That's why the second food group I want to highlight today is berries. Blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, these little fruits are some of the most powerful brain-protecting foods available. They're packed with antioxidants that protect your brain cells from damage, and they also help reduce inflammation, which is one of the hidden culprits behind memory loss. One of the studies I often share with my patients showed that older adults who ate just 2 servings of blueberries a week performed significantly better on memory tests than those who didn't. That's remarkable considering how simple the change is. And beyond the science, berries are enjoyable. They're sweet, refreshing, and easy to add to oatmeal, yogurt, or just eat as a snack. When Harold began swapping out his sugary cereal for a bowl of oatmeal topped with blueberries and walnuts, his mornings transformed. Instead of the quick spike and crash, he had steady energy. Instead of feeling foggy by mid-morning, he was alert. His wife even said he started initiating more conversations, something she hadn't seen in months. Now, I want to pause here and ask something of you again. If this is making sense to you, if you believe that simple foods like fish and berries could play a role in protecting your brain, drop a yes in the comments below. And if you're not convinced, say no. Either way, I want to hear from you because it helps me understand what you're thinking and feeling as we walk through this journey together. And please don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. It may seem small, but your support helps us reach more seniors who need this information, and it tells me that this work is making a difference. Now, let's return to Harold, because his story illustrates this so beautifully. After a few months of adding fish, berries, and a few other adjustments we'll discuss soon, his improvement wasn't just noticeable, it was undeniable. He began volunteering again at his church, something he had stopped doing when his confidence faltered. His grandson told him, "Grandpa, you're back to your old self." And I could see the pride in Harold's eyes when he shared that with me. But here's the thing I want to emphasize. Harold wasn't perfect with his diet. There were days he still had ice cream or times he skipped his fish, and that's okay. Perfection isn't the goal. Consistency is. Even making these changes most of the time can add up to real lasting benefits. That brings me to a crucial point: balance. Too many seniors fall into the trap of either over-restricting themselves or giving up entirely. But the truth is, your brain thrives when you nourish it consistently, not when you punish yourself. That's why I tell patients, don't think of this as a diet. Think of it as giving your brain the gift it deserves. One other thing Harold and I worked on was hydration. You might not think of water as a food, but staying hydrated is essential for brain function. Even mild dehydration can make you feel confused or forgetful. Harold used to drink only a cup of coffee in the morning and little else throughout the day. Once we encouraged him to carry a small water bottle and sip throughout the day, his energy improved even further. So here's what I'd like you to take away so far. Your brain isn't fixed in decline. It's responsive, it's adaptable, and it's hungry for the right fuel. Foods like fatty fish and berries, paired with steady hydration and the removal of harmful choices like processed sugars, can make a profound difference, not just in memory tests, but in the moments that matter most. The joy of solving a crossword puzzle, the laughter during a story with your family, the peace of mind knowing that you're still yourself. That's what we're working toward together. And if you're sitting there thinking, "I'm too old to make these changes," let me gently challenge that thought. Harold was 81 when he started. He had decades of eating habits built in, yet his brain responded. Yours can too.
When I reflect on Harold's progress, what I see is a man who didn't just change what was on his plate, he changed the way he thought about aging. Instead of accepting decline as his fate, he embraced the idea that his choices still mattered. And that's what I want for you. Because after 75, your brain is still alive, still growing, and still capable of remarkable resilience when given the right support. We've already talked about the role of fatty fish and berries in nourishing memory and focus. But the third food I want to highlight today is one that too many people overlook, and yet it's one of the most powerful allies for your brain: leafy greens. Now, I know that for some, the idea of another serving of spinach or kale doesn't sound thrilling, but the science behind greens is compelling, and the results I've seen in my patients are even more so. Leafy greens like spinach, kale, collards, and even simple romaine lettuce are rich in folate, vitamin K, and lutein. These nutrients do two critical things. They reduce inflammation, and they protect the blood vessels that deliver oxygen and nutrients to your brain. Think of your brain like a garden. It needs a steady flow of water and sunlight to grow and thrive. If the pipes delivering that water are clogged, the garden withers. That's what happens in the brain when we neglect our vascular health. Plaque builds up, blood flow slows, and brain cells don't get the nourishment they need. Leafy greens help keep those pathways clear and strong. In fact, one large study found that older adults who ate just one serving of leafy greens a day had brains that functioned as if they were 11 years younger compared to those who rarely ate them. Imagine that, just one daily serving slowing down cognitive aging by over a decade. That's not wishful thinking, that's measurable impact. Harold was skeptical at first. He told me, "Doc, I've never liked spinach. It's bitter, it's mushy, and I'm not going to eat it." And that's fair. I don't expect anyone to force down foods they dislike. But together, we found ways to make greens part of his life in a way that felt enjoyable. He discovered he liked a simple spinach and strawberry salad with walnuts sprinkled on top. He enjoyed sautéed kale when it was cooked with garlic and olive oil rather than boiled into oblivion. And when he didn't feel like eating them outright, he blended a handful into a smoothie with blueberries and banana. Within weeks, Harold's energy became more stable, and over time, his memory improved even further. His wife noticed he was recalling details of their conversations more clearly. He remembered appointments without writing them down. And perhaps most importantly, his confidence grew. He began to trust his own mind again. Now, while we've highlighted the three foods your brain needs, fish, berries, and leafy greens, we also have to talk about the other side of the coin, the foods to avoid. Because just as some foods nourish your brain, others quietly harm it. And if you're still eating them regularly, they may be working against all the good you're trying to do. One of the biggest culprits is processed sugar. And I don't just mean candy or soda. Sugar hides in so many of the foods marketed as healthy. Breakfast cereals, flavored yogurts, granola bars, these are often loaded with more sugar than you realize. Over time, excess sugar damages the blood vessels in your brain, leading to poorer circulation and impaired memory. When Harold cut back on added sugars, the difference was night and day. His afternoon crashes disappeared. He no longer needed a nap just to get through the day. Instead, his energy was steady and his focus was sharper. Another harmful food group for the brain is refined carbohydrates, things like white bread, white rice, and pastries. These foods break down quickly into sugar, causing the same spikes and crashes that leave the brain foggy. Harold's morning toast, for example, was one of the first things we replaced with whole grain bread, giving him more fiber, slower digestion, and steadier energy. And finally, I want to mention trans fats. While they've been reduced in many packaged foods in recent years, they still linger in certain baked goods, fried foods, and margarine. Trans fats are particularly damaging to the brain because they cause inflammation and reduce the fluidity of brain cell membranes. When your brain cells stiffen, communication between them slows. That's exactly the opposite of what we want as we age. I don't share these warnings to overwhelm you or make you feel guilty. Instead, I want you to feel empowered. Because once you know what's harming you, you can begin to make choices that support you. And remember, this isn't about perfection. Even reducing your intake of these harmful foods can lead to real improvements. At this point in Harold's journey, something beautiful happened. He came into my office for a routine visit, and instead of telling me about his struggles, he told me about his victories. He had gone fishing with his grandson and remembered every detail of the trip. He had given a small talk at his church and didn't once lose his place or forget what he wanted to say. And with tears in his eyes, he told me, "Doc, I feel like I'm truly living again, not just getting by." That's the kind of transformation that's possible. And it doesn't require complicated treatments or expensive supplements. It comes from the simple, steady choice to give your brain the foods it needs and avoid the ones that hold it back. Now, I'd like to pause here and ask you again for your feedback. Do you believe you can make changes to your diet that will support your brain health? If your answer is yes, type yes in the comments. If you're not sure, type no. I want to know what you think because it helps me guide you more effectively. And if you're finding this information helpful, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you'll always be notified when we release new content. Let's come back to the heart of the matter. Your brain is not doomed to decline just because you've passed 75. Yes, aging brings challenges. Yes, memory lapses may happen. But by consistently nourishing your brain with the right foods, fish, berries, and leafy greens, and limiting the harmful ones, sugar, refined carbs, and trans fats, you give yourself the best possible chance at clarity, vitality, and independence. And remember, food isn't just about nutrients. It's about moments. It's about the joy of sharing a meal with your family, the satisfaction of cooking something nourishing, and the confidence of knowing that what you're putting on your plate is serving your future. That's what Harold discovered, and that's what I want for you too. Because ultimately, protecting your brain isn't just about avoiding disease. It's about protecting your life, your laughter, your stories, your wisdom, your love. All of those are carried in your brain. And when you feed it well, you honor not just your health, but everything that makes you who you are.
When Harold walked into my office after a year of steady changes, I almost didn't recognize him. Not because his appearance had changed, but because his energy had. The quiet, defeated man who once slouched in his chair now entered with a spring in his step. His shoulders were pulled back, his eyes were bright, and his voice carried a strength that wasn't there before. He said, "Doc, I feel like I've been given a second chance." That's the transformation I want you to hold in your mind as we wrap up this conversation. Because whether you're 75, 85, or even 95, you are not powerless. The choices you make about food, about hydration, about caring for your brain, they matter, and they can give you back pieces of yourself you thought were gone forever. Let's circle back to what we've been discussing. There are 3 foods your brain truly needs after 75. Fatty fish for healthy fats and strong cell communication, berries for memory and protection, and leafy greens for blood flow and cognitive preservation. These are your allies. They're not complicated and they're not expensive. They're simply the foods nature designed to keep your mind sharp and resilient. And on the other side, we talked about the foods to avoid: processed sugars that wear down your vessels and fog your thinking, refined carbs that spike and crash your energy, and trans fats that stiffen your brain cells and rob you of clarity. These are the silent enemies of brain health, and learning to spot them is one of the most valuable skills you can build. When Harold shifted from a breakfast of cereal and white toast to oatmeal with berries and walnuts, his mornings transformed. When he replaced fried snacks with grilled salmon and leafy greens, his afternoons were clearer. When he started drinking water instead of sweetened sodas, his evenings felt calmer. These were small, manageable changes, but they added up to something profound. He got his life back. And what strikes me most about Harold's story isn't just that he regained focus, it's what he did with it. He began teaching his grandson how to fish with patience and detail. He stood up in front of his church and shared a message without losing his train of thought. He laughed more, engaged more, and lived more. His brain health gave him freedom. That's what I want for each of you watching today. Not just a sharper memory, but a richer life. The foods we've discussed aren't about restrictions, they're about opening doors. They're about giving you the chance to keep enjoying the moments that matter most. Now, I want to speak directly to those of you who may be feeling hesitant. Maybe you're thinking, it's too late for me, or I've eaten this way for decades, I can't change now. Let me remind you of Harold. At 81, he thought the same thing. But within months of starting, he saw improvements. And over the years, those improvements only grew. If Harold can do it, so can you. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just start with one meal. Add 1 serving of fish this week. Replace 1 sugary snack with a bowl of berries. Toss a handful of spinach into your dinner. These small steps are where transformation begins. And I want to remind you of something important. Your brain is designed to heal and adapt. Even in your later years, it responds to nourishment, to better circulation, to steady blood sugar. That adaptability is one of the greatest gifts of being human. Don't underestimate it. Before we close, let me ask you one more time to engage with me here. If this message of hope resonates with you, if you believe, like Harold, that it's never too late to take control of your brain health, please type yes in the comments. And if you're still unsure, type no. I read your answers carefully, and they guide me in shaping the advice I share in future videos. And please, if you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you'll always know when new advice is available. I'd also encourage you to share this video with a friend, a sibling, or a spouse who may need to hear this. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone you love is a gentle nudge toward better health. And who knows, watching this together might spark conversations that bring you closer. As we conclude, let's return to the heart of this journey. Your brain is more than an organ. It's the keeper of your memories, your personality, your laughter, your wisdom, and your love. Protecting it with the right foods is one of the most powerful ways to honor yourself and the life you've built. Harold's story reminds us that decline is not inevitable. With the right fuel, the brain can remain vibrant, active, and alive. He thought he was slipping away, but instead, he discovered he was still very much present and capable of joy, connection, and purpose. So if you've ever found yourself forgetting names, misplacing items, or struggling to focus, don't despair. Instead, see it as a call to action. Ask yourself, what can I do today to nourish my brain? Maybe it's a piece of salmon. Maybe it's a bowl of blueberries. Maybe it's a leafy green salad. Each of these choices is a step toward clarity, vitality, and independence. As your doctor, and as someone who has spent more than 30 years walking alongside men and women in their later years, I want you to know this. You are not alone. You are cared for, and your future is still filled with possibilities. So here's my final message for you today. Take hope, take action, and take joy in knowing that with each nourishing bite, you are giving your brain and yourself the chance to live fully, to love deeply, and to be present in the moments that matter most. I'm Dr. Nolan Easton, and it has been an honor to share this time with you. May your days ahead be filled with clarity, laughter, and peace. Until next time, take good care of yourself. You deserve it.